Hi everyone, it's Emma, and in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to crochet the chevron stitch. This is a really pretty stitch and it creates a really nice, quite dense fabric because you're working UK double crochets only. This is probably a good time to mention that I am based in the UK, so I do use UK crochet terminology. If you are from the US or you're used to using US terminology, you will know these as single crochets. And in this example here, I've been using lots of mini skeins of hand-dyed sock yarn and a 3.5mm hook, but for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to be using some DK weight cotton yarn and a 4mm hook just to make things a little bit easier for you to see. So to get started, we're going to work our starting chain, and there's a pretty big multiple for this pattern. You're going to need to chain in multiples of 22, and each repeat of that 22 chain stitches is one chevron. And do bear in mind that when you work the starting chain, it's going to look really long, but once you start working the actual pattern and form the chevron, it's going to cinch in together because you're going to get these lovely V's. So I'm going to take my yarn and create a slip knot, and I'll just move you a bit closer so you can see more clearly. And we're going to pop that slip knot on our hook and begin our starting chain working in multiples of 22. And for this tutorial, I'm going to chain 44 just so it's a nice small sample to show you, but obviously you would chain however many you want for a full-size blanket. I would recommend possibly making a small swatch like this so you can measure it. Okay, so I will go ahead and chain 44. I've just finished my starting chain with 44 stitches, and then what I'm going to do once I've reached the end is add one extra chain, and then we're going to begin our pattern. And it's a really simple pattern. You only need to know how to work one row really, and you'll be repeating that each time. I'm going to actually turn my starting chain onto a side because I like to work into the back bump of the chain here. I think it gives a neater finish. I do have a tutorial on that goes into it in a little bit more detail in case you would like to have a look, which I will pop on the screen for you now. So to begin, we're going to work a double crochet into the second chain from the hook. So I've got my first bump here, and here's my second one. We're going to work a double crochet into there, and then we're going to begin our pattern repeat along the row, and we're going to work 10 stitches, and we're actually going to start our first stitch into this same chain here. You will only do that at the beginning and the end of the row, but that should become clearer as we go ahead. So starting in that same chain, we're going to work one double crochet, and I'll just talk you through how to do that in case you are a beginner. So what you will do is insert your hook, grab that yarn and pull through, and grab that yarn and pull through too, and then you've completed your stitch. So we've just worked 2 stitches, not including the one from the very beginning, so we need to do 8 more. We're going to work 10 double crochets in total. So that's 4 and 5, 9 and 10. And it can be a bit fiddly for the first few rows with this pattern because it does tend to get a bit twisted. Now, if we just have a look at my sample swatch here, what we've actually done is worked this section here. So we've actually been working down the V. So what we need to do at this point is skip 2 chain stitches. So I've got one here and one here, and we're going to go into this next chain here, and we're going to work another 10 double crochets, and that will take us back up to the top of the chevron. So that's our first stitch, 1, 2, 3, 8, 9 and 10, and that brings us back up here. So we're now at this point here at the top of the V, and what we need to do now to form that top is to chain 2. So at the bottom of the V you'll skip 2, at the top you'll chain 2, and we're going to work another 10 double crochets now, and don't have to skip any chains or anything. We'll begin in the next chain along, and we're going to work our way back down now to the bottom of the chevron. 9 and 10. So we've just reached the bottom of the chevron. We need to skip 2 chains now, just like we did last time. And beginning in that 3rd chain along, we're going to work another 10 double crochets, and this is going to bring us back up to the top of that chevron. 3, 9 and 10. And if you've counted correctly, you should find that that 10th double crochet is worked into the final chain along. And if we just go back to the beginning, you will remember that we started off with 2 double crochets. So we worked a double crochet, and then we began our 10 double crochets in that first stitch. And at the end of the row, we need to mirror that same thing. So in the first and the very last stitch of the row, you'll have 2 double crochets. So we've only got 1 at the moment because we've just finished our 10. So we're going to go in that same chain space and work another double crochet. And that completes our first row. And we're essentially working that same thing for each row now. And I've worked 2 rows per colour in this example here. So I'm going to show you how to do that and how to change colour. And this second row here forms the pattern repeat. So if you want to know how to continue adding to this, this is the point that you'll come back to in order to continue building your crochet piece. We're going to start the row by chaining 1 and turning our work. And we need to start the row with 2 double crochets, and we're going to do that into this first stitch here directly underneath the chain. So we'll do 1 double crochet, and then our second double crochet is the first of our 10 that we're going to work to get down to the bottom of the chevron. So we'll do 1 double crochet into that same stitch, and then we start working our way down. So 2, 3, 9 and 10. So that's brought us down to the bottom of the chevron. So if you remember from the previous row, what we need to do now is skip 2 stitches, and I've just taken my hook out to bring it a bit closer to show you. So here is the space from the previous row where we skipped the chain stitches, and you should find that these 2 stitches that we're about to skip on this row sit either side of that space. So you should be able to see with each chevron whether or not everything's lining up, just to kind of keep you on track really. And if it looks a bit lopsided, then you've gone wrong and you need to go back and have a recount. So we're going to skip these next 2 stitches and work another 10 double crochets starting in the 3rd stitch along. And you should find that it's starting to cinch everything in now and form it into the chevrons. 9. I've got 1 more stitch to go. You should find that the 10th stitch is worked into the chain 2 space from the previous row, and that's our 10th double crochet. And now we need to start coming back down the other side. We're going to chain 2, which forms the peak. We're going to work a double crochet into that same space. So at the top of each chevron, you'll have a double crochet, a chain 2 and a double crochet. And we need to work 9 more stitches now to bring us back down to the bottom of that chevron. And there's my last double crochet. We've come back down to the bottom of the chevron. There's the space from where we skipped the stitches previously on the row before. And as you can see, both of the 2 stitches that I'm going to skip here sit nicely either side of that space. So I'm going to skip these and work 10 more double crochets starting in that 3rd stitch along. And that will bring us back up to the chevron at the top. And my 10th double crochet is going to go into this final stitch here. Now, obviously I've only got a small sample piece. If you obviously will have more stitches to go along, what you will do once you've got back to the top there is chain 2 and then work another 10 double crochets back down to the bottom of the chevron. So each peak, remember, you'll have a double crochet, a chain 2 and then a double crochet with 10 stitches in total. Now that I'm at the end of the row here, what I need to do is finish off with another double crochet because we start and end each row with 2 stitches. And that is essentially it. Now, if I wanted to change colour, I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm just going to pull out that last stitch so I can show you how you would finish the row if you wanted to change colour. So you would insert your hook as normal and grab that yarn and pull it through. And then you would leave 2 loops on the hook. You would grab your next colour and loop it over the hook as so. And pull that through and then just give the tail end there a little bit of a tug and then you're ready to begin the next row. So you would chain 1 and turn and then you need to work 2 double crochets into this first space directly underneath the chain there, exactly the same as you did before. And remember that the second double crochet forms the first stitch from our total of 10 that we're going to work, and you should find now that everything is beginning to cinch in. It can look a little bit twisty at this point, but you can see how it's starting to form the V shape now. So I'm going to continue to work this row just to go through it with you one more time, and actually you can snip the end of that yarn there from the colour that you've changed. Okay, so we've got our 2 stitches. So one of them counts as kind of one of the edge stitches and then the second one counts as the first of our 10 stitches. So we need to work 9 more double crochets down to the bottom of that chevron. 9 and 10. And now we're at the bottom of the chevron there. We can just check. Here's the space at the bottom there that from the stitches that we skipped previously. I can see that these 2 stitches sit nicely either side, so I know that I've not miscounted anything anywhere. I can skip these and work another 10 double crochets starting in that 3rd stitch along back up to the top of the chevron. I've just worked my 9th double crochet and I've now come back up to this chain 2 space from the previous row. The 10th stitch goes into that chain 2 space. We chain 2 to create the top of the chevron and then we begin working our way back down again. Stitch number 1 goes into that same space, so 1, and then our 2nd stitch we start working into the actual stitches all the way back down. And 10. Quick check, there's my space from the previous row. These 2 stitches sit nicely either side. I'm going to skip these and work another 10 double crochets starting in that third stitch along, and I'm going to go back up to the end of the row now for me, and your last stitch should fall into the very last stitch of the row there. And to finish off, we need to work one extra double crochet, and we always start and finish with one extra stitch. And to continue, you would just carry on repeating that same process. You will find with this stitch, it does tend to pull everything in. It will be a little bit ripply and wobbly. This sample here I've actually blocked. So I've used merino sock yarn for this. So to block this, all I had to do was just soak it in some water, lay it nice and flat to dry, and you can see how it lays completely flat now. If you're using acrylic yarn, that won't work for you. You will need to steam block it. If you'd like to see a tutorial on steam blocking, just let me know in the comments and I'd be happy to film one for you. But I hope you found that helpful, and don't forget to like and subscribe, leave me a comment, and I'll see you all again soon. Take care everyone, bye.